So this is a CEC class. It's a continuing education credit. If you would like to get credit for it, as I said earlier, send me your name and email address and your AIA number, and I'll make sure to get it registered for you. Today's description is there's an ever-growing public concern for the safety of our schools. As a result, there are many products coming into the marketplace that do not meet the already established code requirements. And in this presentation, we'll look at the typical openings in an educational environment and discuss what you need to know and think about in regards to security products, concerns about barricade devices and touchless solutions. And we'll also discuss the many special openings in a school, such as sound doors, overhead coiling doors, teacher cabinets, and many other unique requirements in an education environment. So the most important thing that's in this presentation is going to be the barricading devices. We're going to hit on it. We're going to hit on it so many times that by the end of this, I hope that you understand that barricading devices are not recommended or really not even allowed in schools. They do not meet codes. They do not meet NFPA 80, which is your fire safety code. They do not meet NFPA 101, which is your life safety code. And they do not meet ADA. So that being said, do not use them. Some of the learning objectives that we'll go through today is after you're done with this course, you should be able to recognize resources available for school security recommendations. You should be able to identify currently available security solutions, look at barricading devices that are on the market, and consider codes that affect hardware selection and industry recommendations. So like I said earlier, by the time we're done with this course, you'll be able to identify the different barricading devices that are currently in the market and know which ones are good to use, which ones are not good to use. And hopefully you'll be able to consider how this affects your school or your facility that you're managing or the one that you're designing. You've seen this, if you've ever been on any of the slides or any of the presentations that I've done, you've seen this in the past. You've seen these exact slides, but this is a part of our everyday lives. We have tragedies like this every day where our children, our family, our loved ones, they're affected. You know, whether they are a student at a facility, whether they are a worker at a facility, or whether they're just the people that that love us and we are affected by this. This is going on every day. And so what do we do to prevent it? There's no calling more vital than the safety and livelihood of our children. They are our future. And so what do we do to protect them? You know, what steps do we take to protect those children or any other facility that we're working in? Some of the security considerations in a school are the perimeters of the building and the grounds, the entrances in the building exterior, the building interior and the classrooms. So for the building exterior, we're going to go through each one of these, but it's important to understand, why do schools, why do hospitals set their facilities up the way that they do? Why do they put up barricades that are on the exterior that limit the access from a vehicle or from different persons, what have you? Why do we set up vestibules inside of a school that limit access, that trap a person into the facility prior to allowing them to gain access? Why do we have different rules and setups for the interiors of our building to limit, you know, not only the spread of fire or something like that, but also limit the availability of a person walking through a facility, going through corridors, going into classrooms, and that sort of thing. And we'll take a look at each one of them. As you see in this photo, this is a typical setup that you would see at any school. You have your classrooms on one side, and you have a cafeteria, a play place, you know, a little area to play basketball, a gymnasium on one side, science lab, different things like that. But as you notice around it, you see the perimeter and you see a gate that limits a little bit of the access. But then you see the way that the school buses are interacting with the school at the front end. You see these trees that are around the facility on the back end. And what do we do? What do we look at whenever we're looking at a conceptual drawing to say, okay, I can see here that this right here is where we have a parking lot, we have some sort of building access, we have this driveway, but how do we limit, someone from just being able to enter our space and go into the facility? And so what we've done is we've created aesthetically pleasing designs in our conceptual drawings that now show different types of barricading devices or limiting devices that would prevent someone from just easily accessing our facilities. As you can see in the top left, we have a bridge going into this facility, and you see the same thing on the bottom, where you kind of have a moat that limits access, limits the availability of a vehicle going into this facility. Then you see right here where you have these barricading devices or banisters that limit the availability of someone going through and just being able to drive into this facility. You have limitation on trees, small shrubbery. We've changed the way that we've looked at schools and how someone can hide and quickly access the building. So as we said earlier, the building perimeter and grounds. Take a look at this, the new format of the way that we've set up these schools, to where you can see now you have the circle driveway, you have a limiting space to where, whenever you're going into this facility, the same with this one right here, you have a huge offset. You have to walk up to the school. And even though it's aesthetically pleasing, we are now providing security to these schools to where, we can help save lives. What do we add to the building perimeter and grounds that would also allow for a more secure space? We could add cameras in. We add intercoms, video management software that you'll see in this next slide. You see it here at the bottom left, the way that the hardware is set up, exit devices and card readers, credentialing and things that would allow us to quickly secure a facility if needed. So one thing I didn't mention in a previous training that I did is with the entrances in the building exterior, at the entrance where we have that secure vestibule, you not only have to push the buzzer to get in, they see who you are, they ask you what you're doing, they allow you to go into one portion of the space, but that portion of the space is a man trap, if you will, or a person trap, I guess, that will restrict you from accessing the interior of the space prior to being authorized by a member of the personnel or the staff. We add lockdown procedures to the exterior that would limit access as well. Moving into the interior, say a person has the ability to, make it past the exterior of the facility, and they're now moving into the interior of the space. Instead of just having a simple name badge that says visitor or something along those lines, now we have a person that's going to come in and they're going to escort you in most situations. They're going to ask you who you are, what your intentions are, who you're here to see, what you're doing, to limit your availability to access all the areas that are in a facility. At our building interiors, in our classrooms, we've changed the way that we have, that we use our classrooms. We inset them into the facility. We put in blinders at the windows. We have lockdown hardware at our classroom doors. We've changed the different types of hardware that we're using, from using a standard classroom lock set to now a security or intruder type lock set, maybe using storeroom type lock sets, or even using exit devices with the night latch function, or a classroom function that has security lockdown on the interior. We've changed the way that our auditoriums, our cafeterias, we've changed the way that we've thought about a lot of things to where we can exit, quickly escape, we can move through a facility, and we've been trained on how to do that inside that facility. The safest place to be is behind a closed locked room or behind a locked classroom door. While this is true, there are some things that we will discuss later on that I want you to be aware of when just saying behind a locked classroom door, we're safe. Final report of Sandy Hook Advisory Commission. The testimony and other evidence presented to the commission reveals that there has never been an event in which an active shooter breached a locked classroom door. As the person in Sandy Hook moved through the facility, they tried to open the door and access the facility, and whenever they couldn't gain access, they looked in the window. They may have knocked on the door, but if no one answered the door, they didn't see anyone inside the room, they moved on. You know, this whole thing where we're talking about security, we spend a lot of money on it, but it's for an event that's going to last about 5 minutes or less. And as short as that may sound, in those 5 minutes, the tremendous amount of life lost is insurmountable. So we want to be able to protect our students. We want to be able to research what's going on. We want to be able to protect our kids moving forward. Lock sets that are currently available: traditional classroom lock sets, security intruder classroom lock sets, entrance lock sets, storeroom, and then electronic access control. We're going to move through every single one of these. So don't worry about me not explaining that other slide. The traditional classroom lock set. This is the one where if you rotate the cylinder from the outside 180 degrees one way, it will unlock the door, and then rotating it 180 degrees the opposite way, it will lock the door. There's a major fallacy in using the F84 classroom lock set or the F05 if we are talking about ANSI standards lock set, and that major fallacy is, and if you have an unlocked classroom door, even though your door is closed, if it's unlocked, the only way to get it to lock is to go inside or go outside the room that's protecting you and lock that door. So if there's someone on the opposite side in that hallway, they know that once you've opened that door, if they create panic, they're going to be able to gain access to that facility or that room, excuse me. So we came out with this security lock, the security lock set, the security classroom lock set. You have this in both mortise lock and cylindrical lock. The added benefit to having this in a mortise lock function is the availability of visual indication. When you have it in the cylindrical lock, as you can see in the top right photo, it tells you if you have it rotated to the right or clockwise, it is locked. If you have it rotated to the counterclockwise, it is locked. Now, this is on the inside of the classroom door. So the benefit of a security classroom lock set is the availability to lock down the classroom from the inside of the room without having to go to the outside to lock the door. The inside key should be different than the outside key. The major reason for that is if a person, does infiltrate a facility, does cause harm to a person, takes their lanyard, has their key. If your lock sets are keyed all the same, both on the inside and the outside, they have access to every room in the facility. So it's very important that on the inside that you have that room keyed differently than everything else, and you want to make sure that the inside key, maybe it is a common key on for the inside core of every single lock set that's on the building, but you don't want it to be the same as the rest of the master key system. Diving further into the security classroom lock set, I just now mentioned most of this. The inside cylinder should be keyed to a common key and is not intended to match the corridor cylinder. This would allow any authorized person to escape into any room and be capable of locking the door. The inside cylinder locks the outside lever only. The inside remains free for egress. Just like any lock set that we're going to be talking about in this program, all of our lock sets have free egress from the inside. An entrance or an office lock set. What's cool about this lock set is the availability of either the toggle on the inside edge of the mortise lock or a thumb turn on the inside of the mortise lock if you're using the AB. As you can see in the A function or the 04 function, the toggle is on the inside edge of the lock set itself. On the F20 function, you have the toggle or you have the thumb turn. You also could have visual indication here. If you have a cylindrical lock, this is a very common thing that a lot of people use. I actually spoke to somebody about this using this with an electric strike yesterday. By pushing in the button or depressing the button or rotating the thumb turn on the inside, or flipping the toggle on the edge of the door, it will lock the door. Now, lock down, it locks the outside lever. You still have free egress on the inside, but it gives you the ability to quickly push that button, lock the door on the outside, and unless somebody has a key on the, for the outside door, they're not going to be able to get in. If a person does have the key, if you have the thumb turn turned, they still have the ability to retract the latch. Keep that in mind, please. Storeroom lock set. Now, the storeroom lock set, the outside lever is always locked and it cannot be unlocked. The only thing a person can do is retract the latch of this lock set, whether it be a mortise lock or a cylindrical lock. The only thing that they can do is if they have a key, they can turn the key, whether it be 180 degrees or 90 degrees, and retract the latch bolt itself. The inside lever is always free for egress, but as soon as the door closes, the door is always locked. By far, the most secure of all of the lock sets that are available today. Mechanical lock sets. Electronic access control. Now, this could be wireless. This could be hardwired. This could be standalone. This could be all three in your facility, depending on how you want to set up your facility, how you want to manage the lockdown capabilities, and how you want to control the access to any room in the facility. If, say, you are at a school and you're worried about locking down a school with zero latency, quick, real-time feedback, you're going to want your perimeter hardwired. If you want next to real-time capability, so minimal latency, you would use a wireless lock set that is tied into your head-end software. But say you want, you have two rooms, one will maybe be the nurse's office or a storage closet in the nurse's office, where you don't want it to be a part of the access control system. You want to be able to maintain some security. So at this opening, you still could use a key fob. You could use a keypad, but it would be standalone and not tied to your access control system. Both the wireless and the standalone, both of those are battery powered. If you want to go through those more in depth, I have an access control class that we can do. It's the basics of access control. Hit me up and we can go through that privately or do it in another class. But don't limit yourself on what you choose just because, oh, I heard that the hardwired is the best. Well, it might be the best, but as far as budget is concerned, you might want to be able to use both. And excuse me, I had my producer come in and tell me that I was talking too loudly. But you want to be able to use that hybrid system. So hardwired on the perimeter, you have those wire runs, you have those drops, you have all that access. It's going to cost a lot of money to do that. So by tying in a wireless system on the interiors, you allow yourself the same type of access control, the same type of lockdown capabilities with next to real-time latency, or next to real-time capabilities with hardly any latency, but without all those wire runs, without all that installation cost. Keep that in mind. So I hit on this a little bit earlier, but you didn't get a chance to see it. Now you get a chance to see it. Visual indication. What is the purpose of visual indication, especially in a school? Well, we are in a panic. We are in a high pressure situation, very tense. We don't know what's going on. We've trained our personnel, but we don't know if whenever we turn that cylinder 180 degrees, if we truly did lock down our school, because as you know, at the inside lever of our building, the inside lever always has free egress. So how do we know if it's locked? Well, we'd have to go to the outside, pull it down, and by that time it's too late. So we added visual indication to our exit devices, our lock sets. Some manufacturers have added them to their cylindrical locks. There's only one out there. But by doing that, by adding this visual indication, we are now able to have the ability to quickly turn our head, our head case cylinder one way or the other. We know it's locked. We have the ability to turn our cylinder and our mortise lock one way or the other, or thumb turn, and we know it's locked. Green is open, red is locked. Or we have, this visual indication of this little lock that says, yes, you are unlocked, or no, you are not unlocked. You are, in fact, locked down. And as we move through that, we look at indication, we look at the basics of our lock sets. Now let's apply them to the doors that are in our facility. Different types of doors are going to take different types of locking hardware. If you have electronic access control, or if you have mechanical lock sets, you want to be able to take every single room in the facility and treat it differently, because every single room in our facility is different. As we look at this cross corridor here, we want to be able to identify what type of hardware in the event of a lockdown would allow us the most security to protect this space right here. And so in this cross corridor, you might have night latch or exit only exit devices in this facility. So if you had exit only exit devices that are tied to a magnetic hold open device, that's right here, which I can't zoom in, so I apologize. But in that situation, and I pushed ahead, but we're still going to talk about it. If you had that situation, you've now created a perfect scenario where the people that are on the inside are protected. There's no way to enter from the opposite side. The only way to get through the opening is whether you have a key or you exit through the exit device. So keep in mind, each space can protect a facility in different ways, and it doesn't always have to be electrified. It doesn't always have to be, with a visual indication or lockdown. Mechanical hardware still works, and if you utilize it in the proper way, it'll work for you in your building. Now we're going to start going through some NASFM recommendations, and as we go through this, I know that you've probably read through some of these, but we're going to look through each one of these. But the most important thing is, with these 10 steps, or I think it's 10 steps, 1, 3, 5, no, it's 9 steps. But in these 9 steps or 10 steps, whatever they have in here, in the suggested classroom door checklist, is used throughout. However, based upon building codes, life safety codes, fire codes, federal, state, local jurisdiction, they will tell you what is recommended for each space. But these are recommendations. NASFM recommendation number 1, the door should be lockable from the inside the classroom without requiring the door to be opened. So that's where you have the classroom lock set, and you'd have to go to the outside to turn it 180 degrees in order to lock it down. We've developed the classroom security lock set to where we can now lock it down from the inside. Egress from the classroom through the classroom door should be without the use of a special tool, a key, or knowledge or effort. Please don't go into your school or facility and make it a puzzle. Make it too difficult to lock down your classroom door. As you can see in this photo here, it is kind of a funny way of saying, don't overcomplicate things. And if you do have this in any of your facilities or even in your apartment, God bless you. For egress, unlatching the classroom door from the inside the classroom should be accomplished with one operation. Now, what we mean here is, by using one operation, use a cylindrical lock with a classroom security function. Use a mortise lock with visual indication or a classroom function, or even a toggle button to lock it down. Use an exit device, but leaving the room should just be with one function, one motion. Do not use a deadlock with the cylindrical lock because you think, I have visual indication with this deadlock. It's a single-sided deadlock. We flip the deadlock over Now we can see that we are in lockdown mode. Nobody can get in from the outside. Well, guess what? Life Safety 101 and FPA 80 have all been compromised, and also, Americans with Disability Acts, depending on where you mounted that, that deadbolt, or even because you have two operations to exit, they've all been compromised because we've tried to add something to allow for more safety in our facility. The classroom door should be lockable and unlockable from outside the classroom. Why? This is the biggest reason why. So we talked about this earlier, but I didn't really hit on it too much. In the event of an emergency, whether the teacher has a life-threatening event or even a student has a life-threatening event, we want to be able to access that room from the outside with a key to get in, okay? There's also a growing concern for bullying in the classroom, or even our children acting like children do. I mean, my daughter is the perfect example of a lot of this, where if you have free reign, you're able to lock down a room, you have the ability to do whatever you want, however you want, until the teacher returns. And the reason I brought up my daughter, we had an event at our school where inside the classroom, the teacher was away for a brief moment, and a student in her class had a condition, and with that condition, he started having a medical emergency. Drew, she was able to quickly think of a solution, which was to go and grab a teacher or a teacher's aide, bring them to this person to where they could quickly assist them. If the classroom was locked down on the outside, or if the classroom was locked down on the inside by other means other than what's recommended, my daughter would not be able to leave the classroom, grab a teacher, bring that teacher back in, grab an aide, whatever she did, bring them to that person to deliver the medical aid that they needed, and then it could have become a very serious event. So keep those things in mind. One of the things that we're going to talk about in some of the upcoming slides are going to deal with bullying, but it's not always centralized around bullying. But what it is centralized around is our safety and keeping you safe, not only from the inside, but also from the outside, because sometimes the threat is not always on the outside. In this NASFM recommendation, door operating hardware shall be operable without tight grasping, tight pinching, or twisting of the wrist. This has to do with Americans with Disabilities Act. So whenever we put in barricading devices, especially one such as this one here, and I believe a person that's on this call brought a barricading device that looks just like this one. They have this in their facility, in their school, and it is such a wrong thing to do. In the event of an emergency, especially one that's on the inside of the room, whether it be through bullying or through a medical emergency, if the person if the only person that is available to open that door is a person that is disabled, guess what? We now have a situation inside the room to where we cannot access that person, and that emergency is not going to go away, and there's no way from the outside that you can get into that room without tearing down the door in its entirety. So as we look at this, we're going to start getting into more of these barricading devices, different devices that are used to lock down doors. This one here is a actual lockdown device that is used for exit devices, the one that's on the right. It's not used to undog a device or undog a device that has been dogged down to put it back into the locked position, which still allows for free egress. This one actually locks down the exit device. Not recommended. Door hardware, operable parts should be located between 34 and 48 inches above finished floor. Again, this is due to ADA and their regulations. Please do not use different types of barricading devices at the top of a door or at the bottom of a door that would limit the ability of someone who is very small from being able to access these openings. Now, whenever I say very small, I don't necessarily mean someone that is disabled and has a height restriction. What I mean is our children. So if you have someone that is in kindergarten, their average height by the end of the school year is about 48 inches. And so because of that, at the beginning of the school year, or even at the end of the school year, if you place something at 50, 60, 70 inches above finished floor, guess what? If that material is locked down by the teacher and then that teacher has a medical emergency, how are those kids going to get out of that classroom? They aren't. And so not only are we not able to assist that teacher, we're not able to assist the people that we were there to protect, which are our children. And so by barricading ourselves into a room using these barricading devices, we are creating a serious, serious threat on both the inside and the outside of the room. This is the same barricade device that we saw on the previous slide. The bottom 10 inches of the push side of the door surface should be smooth. That does not allow for this type of barricading device. Not only does it not allow for this type of barricading device due to the ADA regulation, meaning that things like this should project off the floor no more than 4 inches, but also for the simple fact that you have to use two motions, one to lift the door barricade device up, but also then to use the lever that's located at 40 inches above finished floor or wherever you recommend it to be located in between that 34 and 40 inches. But you now cause a situation where you're interfering with Life Safety 101, NFPA 80, and ADA. This is the same type of barricading device that you saw on the previous slides. If the school building does not have an automatic fire sprinkler system, the classroom door and the door hardware may be required to be fire rated, and the door should be self-closing and self-latching. Doors required to be fire rated are required to be self-closing and self-latching to assure that they close and are latched in the event of a fire. So as we can see in these two photos here, what this does is prevent the door from being self-latching. And so what you see in these slides here, this keeps the door open. So that way the teacher can open the door quickly and allow students to come in, then they remove that little device. Well, guess what? What if we forget to use it? And what if it's easier for the teacher to just put this device onto the opening, or facilities to put this onto the opening? They can quickly use it as a push and pull. And now, in the event of an emergency, unless you know exactly how to use this device, you're in trouble, because now all of your doors are push and pull. There's no lockdown. There's no lockdown capability. And especially with this one right here, the only way to make it lockdown capable is if you open that door, remove it, and then close the door. And by that time, it's too late. If the door is required to be fire rated, the door should not be modified in any way that invalidates the required fire rating of the door and/or door frame. So we see it all the time. Okay, I need to add lockdown to my facility. How do we do that? Well, let's just put in a deadlock. You go down to Lowe's, you buy a quick little cylindrical lock jig. At our facilities, we have drills. We have drills all the time. Well, as soon as you interfere with that door and you put in that hole that's more than 1/2 of an inch, guess what you've just done? You've invalidated the fire rating on that door, and that door, in the event of a fire, you're liable for any damage that's caused, not only to the inside of that facility, but also to the outside of that facility, wherever that fire may spread to. So please don't do that. The National Fire, or the National Association of State Fire Marshals, is not recommending the use of any barricading devices. I'll give you guys a moment to read what they say about barricading devices, but basically it prevents us from utilizing the codes and standards that we've worked so hard for throughout the years of changing our codes, changing our standards, changing our practices, and we go back to square one, really. Whereas we used to be so upset whenever a teacher would put a hanger on the inside of their door, now we are worried about them having the capability of removing the latch from a cylindrical lock, putting in these different barricading devices or different type of latch protection devices to where they make their doors push-pull, or they lock down the door from the inside, or they barricade it from the very top of the door, or they have some sort of quick, easy key that they have beside their door that you take that key out, you slide it into the lock, and you just lock down the whole facility or your whole classroom, but it's locked down forever. Now, why is that so important? Why are these barricading devices, why am I hitting on them so much in regards to the classroom itself? With barricading devices, if you don't have a fire rated door, if you don't have a door that is required to meet ADA, if it's not an egress path, what does it matter? What does it matter if I use a barricading device or not? As you can see in some of the devices that are up here at the top, you can literally lock someone in, and unless somebody is tall enough, they won't be able to get in. You can see it at the top right. The reason that it's so important, and we're about to get right into it, is for the simple fact that not only does it not comply with all of these codes and standards, but could allowing anyone the ability to lock a classroom door perpetuate victimization? It's a pretty broad question. You know, whether a door is locked down or not, as soon as a teacher leaves the facility, you always have you always have someone looking for the opportunity to hurt someone else if their intention is to hurt someone else. Whether it be in the bathroom that only has push and pulls, whether it be in a classroom, whether it be in the gym, whether it be in a locker room. If someone is looking to do harm to someone else, they're going to do whatever it takes to be able to do that harm. But by allowing someone another means of, or the ability to lock down an opening to where they can perform that harm, and it might not even be physical harm. It could be mental harm. It could be that they are stealing. It might be something along those lines where they are taking something from someone else. They are inflicting some sort of abuse, and then they are doing whatever they want to do. And we have zero ability to access that student, to help them out, to advocate for them, because we have put in something that removes that ability. Most of what you saw on the previous slide and also in this slide here are great topics to talk about, but the bottom line is, as you look at serious violent attacks per 1,000 students, you see it happens every 30 students per 1,000 has some sort of ill intent towards another person. As you can see, and the percentage of public schools, that number increases exponentially up to 80% of victimizations. As you can see, 70% of them are violent, 60% non-violent or something else happened, and 30% are due to theft. Strangely enough, in the study that was done in 2019 in Pennsylvania, most of that was performed by females. So having the ability to barricade a room creates the opportunity for someone else. So we want to be able to prevent that. And as you can see, rate per 1,000 students, the unintended consequences, of material that's happened in school or away from school, most of the time these crimes happen at school. So 7 lessons learned from Sandy Hook, and I'm going to briefly talk about some of these because this presentation is always geared around a subject that is pretty doom and gloom, right? But I'm going to hit on each one of these anyway, and I know that you're probably reading through them as we're discussing this as it is. But we don't always have to think about access control, perimeter security, interior security, school security, or even any type of security at any facility as negative. What we want to do is take something that happened in our past that was negative, whether it be, the New Jersey apartment fire, or the Chicago fire, or the New Jersey club fire. We want to be able to take tragedy and turn them into something positive. And, as tragic as that may sound, we want to be able to protect our future children from the same, from things that happened to our previous mistakes. So some of the things that we've learned are action by school personnel. They save lives, by taking things into their own hands, because we had no training at Sandy Hook. We had no training after Columbine. And we started to have training after Parkland. But actions by school personnel, they save lives. Locking interior doors worked. Lockdowns must be implemented quickly. If you do not have a lockdown procedure in your school, or if you do not have any type of design practices in your school, make sure that as we leave this program, or any other program that you have learned about recently, start taking those and implementing them into your schools. Because if you lock down your facility, whenever a threat is recognized, if you lock down your doors, whether it be mechanically or electronically, they save lives. Implementing them quickly will save a ton of lives. Could be all lives. All school staff must be trained and empowered to act. Maybe it's not encountering the person that's, perpetrating these actions, but protecting their students. They have to be able to be trained. They have to know that under high stress situations, they have to be able to act, and they have to do it fast. Sandy Hook's principal probably didn't have a chance to fight back. We all know why. Because we weren't trained, because we didn't have secure vestibules, because we didn't have the interrogation process that we have now. Things were a little bit different then. Rumors after Sandy Hook prompted many schools to implement unproven strategies, fighting back, security guards with guns and things like that. I'm not here to get political or talk about anything that is right or wrong, but what I'm here to say is, as far as mechanical access control is concerned, or electronic access control is concerned, you could save a whole lot more lives by locking down a facility, as opposed to confronting someone outside of the school or something along those lines, or even allowing that person to get into the school. If you see a suspicious person that's in the parking lot, that's been wandering around the parking lot, driving around the parking lot, we can identify those things fast. We can implement our security measures, and we can prevent things from happening. Bottom line. Some of the resources that are available, I'm going to provide these slides to you so that you'll have them for yourself. Other openings to consider: band halls, auditoriums, and facilities. Do doors that are acoustically rated, that are sound rated, can they be locked down? Sure, why not? What about a gymnasium that has no doors on the inside of it, no way of protecting yourself once you're inside of it? How do we handle the procedures on the outside of it? What do we do to lock down those doors? How do we protect those children? Well, we implement security measures on the outside perimeter of the building, just like we talked about earlier, to where you have to have some sort of credentialing to get in, to limit the access of someone who isn't intended to be inside that space from getting in. And the kids that are in the space, we've now trained them to remove themselves away from the doors, hide in corners, hide under the bleachers, hide, get out of sight, because 9 times out of 10, if a person doesn't see you, they will move on. A active shooter situation, they're not going to go through and start searching you out to try to find you to inflict any type of harm. They're going to go through and find opportunities, people that are running, people that are scared, that have frozen in the middle of a hallway, things like that, people that are unsuspecting. They're going to find those people first. Security grills. You used to see these in schools where you have that sliding partition that goes across a hallway or corridor, or down a corridor, to prevent fire, or even to limit access to a space in the event of, like, weekend events where you're you want to be able to allow access in the gymnasium, but you don't want to allow access to the classrooms. That's where you see security grills. Well, now these same security grills are able to be tied into your access control system, and in the event of an emergency, these things can quickly be implemented. You can use these security grills to protect people inside of a facility to limit the ability of someone moving through these spaces quickly. Elevators, teachers' cabinets, basketball goals. All of these things are things to consider when looking at, lockdowns, keeping our kids safe and things like that. With elevators, in the event of an emergency, do the elevators shut down? Do the doors that go into the elevator, do they close, limited access? Same thing with teacher cabinets. Do we have the ability to electronically control those teacher cabinets to where they are locked down, removing the ability of someone hiding inside that space? Do we control how that space is used and things like that? We aren't only talking about the interior of a space. Yesterday, I performed this exact same training to a great group in the northern part of Colorado, and they were asking about, if we had electronic access control, could that same access control be used in off-site facilities, such as gymnasiums, well, such as press boxes and field houses, concession stands, sports fields, which would be your dugouts and things like that. Do we have the ability to use electronic access control at these spaces? Absolutely. Are they able to be tied into existing access control systems? Sure. This is the hybrid situation that we were talking about earlier, where using wireless and hardwired systems to be able to tie into the same head-end software. By doing that, we can lock down different spaces, different zones, different areas to limit access to whoever we want to. You do the same thing with wireless access control. What we cannot do it with is standalone access control. We want to be able to enable schools to focus on what is really important. And as I said in the beginning of this program, and this is the end of what we're discussing, our children are our future. And by saying that, we want to be able to focus on what matters, and that's education. We want our children to have fun. We want them to be educated. We want them to be able to enjoy life and not have to worry about, do we have a threat from the outside today? Do we have to, go into lockdown? Is someone going to harm us? Is someone going to do something that is wrong? And that not only means an active shooter, it could be a bully inside the classroom. So be mindful of how we use these openings. I know that with doors, frames, and hardware, we talk about it all the time in our training Tuesdays. We're only 1% of the overall opening, right? Even when we were talking about the design concept, we have nothing to do with landscaping. We have nothing to do with asphalt and pavement. We have nothing to do with those divisions. But, and those are large divisions. But whenever it comes to an active situation, we have everything to do with those facilities.